Chicago Bears Now is presented by Manscaped. It's National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. Stay on top of that stuff and also get 20% off all of their men's grooming products with promo code BEARS20 at manscaped.com. All right, big episode today. Shout out to Michael Horowitz, who was our Super Chat MVP the other day. The MVP got to choose a topic of their choice that we would turn into an episode. And what he wanted to do is for me to talk about why the Bears have struggled to either find good quarterbacks, develop good quarterbacks, and then I'm adding the twist of why I believe it could and quite frankly should be different this time around with Caleb Williams. Excited to dive in, loaded episode here. But listen, playoffs? Can the Bears be a playoff team next year? If you want them to be in the playoffs in 2024, hit that like button. Let's get 2,000 likes on today's show and get back into the postseason for the first time since 2020. Like this video today. I think to set the stage for this, let's kind of just look at some numbers here. It's abysmal when you think about the history of this franchise at quarterback. Single season records, Eric Kramer with yards and touchdowns, 3,838 yards, 29 touchdowns. Mitchell Trubisky, Rolly's favorite, 66.6% completion percentage. There's guys who are higher, but they played like 3 games or something like that. So someone who actually started for at least a season, Trubisky has the record there. And this has just got to end. I mean, the Bears are the only franchise that doesn't have a quarterback that's hit 4,000 yards passing and 30 touchdown passes. I think the Jets have hit just one of those, but even they've hit one of the 2 categories. And you don't want to be in a category with the Jets when it comes to quarterback play because they have not had great quarterback play either. So a lot of reasons why it hasn't worked. We're going to dive into those. A lot of reasons why I think it could or even should work this time around with Caleb Williams. That is what's coming up, why I think it should work with Caleb Williams this time around. But let's dive into some of the reasons, and I'll give examples for each of these categories for why it hasn't worked. Well, the simple answer is they've drafted the wrong guy a lot of the time. In 2017, there's no better example. Mitch is a great dude. He wasn't a bad QB by any means. But when Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were sitting there, and look, we know how the Watson stuff is played out, but there's no doubt in terms of what he can do on the field and especially was doing with Houston before the debacle happened, they chose the wrong guy in Trubisky over Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. There's just no question. Not only did they choose the wrong one, they traded up and chose the wrong one. That hurts. I mean, there's no doubt about that. There's other examples, but I think that's a more recent, relevant example to everyone watching this show. You got to evaluate and pick the right guy. It's not easy. If it was easy, every team would be able to do it, and obviously the Bears have not been able to do that. Now, it's not always about picking the right or wrong guy. I think a big problem throughout this franchise's history, and at times it's been a good thing, but especially in the modern era of football, the last 10 to 15 years, this team has just not historically placed enough emphasis offensively. I mean, when you think of the Bears historically, what do you think of? You think of these big physical linebackers, right? Briggs, Urlacher, Butkus, and they're all legends and they're all awesome, and I wouldn't want it any other way in terms of the guys who have played here, but that emphasis defensively, I think, has been a direct correlation to why quarterbacks here haven't had success, at least partially because they haven't had enough help. Think about this franchise's history. The receiving leader in yards is Johnny Morris, 5,000 yards. Justin Jefferson hit that in 3 years in Minnesota. DJ Moore might pass that, and he spent his first 6 years of his career in Carolina. Keenan Allen, who the Bears just traded for, has more than double career yards of Johnny Morris. Think about that. Ken Kavanaugh. Anybody heard of Ken Kavanaugh? Probably not, because he played in the 1940s and Johnny Morris played in the 1950s. The point is, that is a great example that the Bears have not had nearly enough help as receiving threats to help quarterbacks. Like, sure, they've had Brandon Marshall for a few years, Alshon Jeffrey. Like, they've had little blips, Greg Olsen, but not for an extended period of time. Allen Robinson for a few years. But the really good teams and offenses historically, they have big-time weapons for a long time. The Bears have never had that. I mean, ever. It's kind of incredible when you really, really think about it. Now, who is your favorite Bears wide receiver ever? I would say just a guy I enjoyed watching was Brandon Marshall. I just enjoyed the way he played. Obviously, he played for a bunch of teams, but he had a nice few years here. But again, you don't have that obvious guy to point to, and we're probably a good year or two away from that answer being DJ Moore for me, because his year last year is about as good as any year a receiver has had for this franchise. All right, before we continue with this episode, which we're in the negative part of it, we'll get to the positive. Speaking of positive, 20% off with Manscaped, manscaped.com, promo code BEARS20. Take advantage of the code and get the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Listen, it's the best ball hair trimmer on the market. Their advanced skincare technology. There's a second blade on this product too as they continue to improve it to just give you a better, more smooth shave. It's water resistant, so you can use it in the shower. You can also have a long battery life with it. It's got a wireless charging station. It's got a light on it, so if there's some dimming issues in your house or whatever the case may be, you're going to be able to see all those tough spots to get. Manscaped.com, promo code BEARS20. And Manscaped's doing a cool thing, too, with National Testicular Cancer Awareness Month. They have partnered with the Testicular Cancer Society to help spread awareness for men's health and early cancer detection. Go check that out, manscaped.com/TCS, to go learn more about that. And fellas, as you get older, I know it's scary to think about, but you got to stay on top of this stuff. You got to stay on top of your health, and Manscaped's doing a cool thing, partnering up with them. It's a great cause. Go check it out, manscaped.com/TCS. Okay, another reason why quarterbacks haven't worked here. Just an incredibly long list of revolving doors at offensive coordinator. It is hard to overcome change in anything in life, right? Like consistent change, right? They say change is good, and a lot of the time that's true, but not when it happens too often. And that's in any field, that's in any area of life. Since 2000, the Bears have had 12 different offensive coordinators. Think about that. That's an average of one every other year. And only two, John Shoop and Ron Turner, lasted more than 2 years. That is tough to overcome, man. That is a lot of change. I get it. It's an impatient world we live in. I wanted to fire Matt Eberflus after 2 years. I get all that. But that tells you one of two things. One, the franchise was too impatient. Or two, the guys they have brought in just suck. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, you look at the list of coordinators who have been here in the last 2 decades. It ain't pretty. So, yeah, hopefully Shane Waldron can change that narrative soon. And if he's really good, yeah, he may only be here a year or two because he's going to be a head coach. But the guys that have been here a year or two the last 2 decades, they're not leaving to become head coaches. They're getting fired. That narrative needs to change. And then number 4, and this kind of leads to a combination of all the stuff, just overall organizational failure. Timing not adding up. Justin Fields is a great example of this. He could not overcome just brutal timing of him being brought in here, and why I'm calling this a raw deal. I mean, he gets drafted by Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, who were allowed to trade up for him in April of 2021. And even though we all knew there was a very good chance they'd be fired, which they were 8 months later. And then they hire Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. And I think so far, especially for Poles, that's been good, and he's done a good job. But it wasn't great for Justin Fields. He had to tear down the roster because Ryan Pace left the salary cap situation here in shambles with some really backloaded, awful deals. So he had to trade players away, cut them, bite the bullet for 22 and somewhat in 2023. The Bears get the number 1 pick for a second straight year this past December after Justin Fields' up and down season where, yes, we started to see more flashes, but still some inconsistent play. And then they trade Justin Fields because of that. And look, make no mistake. Ryan Poles did the right thing cleaning up Ryan Pace's mess. It wasn't fair for Justin because he had no talent to work with in 2022, which Poles has acknowledged. But that's just the way life goes sometimes, right? But the point is like the organization failed Justin, and they've done that many a times before. I don't think they put Mitch in a great spot. The timing of head coach, GM, quarterback has not been aligned where this time around it actually could, which is why I actually would not fire Matt Eberflus after this year unless it's an absolute disaster because you need some continuity. That's why I wanted a new head coach so you could build with this quarterback, but that's neither here nor there. So those are 4 big reasons why quarterbacks have not had great success here. Here's the thing. It can change, and we'll tell you how in just a moment. But first, hit the subscribe button. We got daily Bears content for 100% free. Turn on those notifications after you subscribe. That way you never miss out. You know exactly when we're going live, when we publish videos. We have fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy. Subscribe for daily Bears content. It can work this time. I don't want to be all doom and gloom and focus on the past. And, I've been critical of those, people like JT O'Sullivan, who I really respect, but he's like, I wouldn't want to go to Chicago. The history's the history. And I get that. And that does matter to an extent. But that doesn't mean what the Bears are doing here and now isn't setting up the next quarterback really, really well, which I think Caleb Williams is in a position to succeed here. For the first time in a while for a rookie quarterback, you have really good, I would say, clearly above average, if not I don't want to say great, but really good offensive personnel. You've got two really good receivers in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, both who were top 10 in receiving yards last year. Ryan Poles called Keenan Allen the most friendly receiver he could find for a rookie quarterback. I'd say that's pretty high praise. Cole Kmet and Gerald Everett, a pretty good 1-2 punch at tight end. They never found a secondary tight end for Justin Fields. You add DeAndre Swift to the running back room. Khalil Herbert slides back into a role he's been good at for a few years now as that RB2. You got Roschon Johnson, who you're hoping to develop. I'm not saying this offensive skill group is unreal. I still think there's some things on the offensive line that can be better. But compared to what they've had, I would say this is an above-average offensive group to come into for a rookie quarterback. And number two, and again, this is even more projection, but on paper, this is a good offensive staff. Chris Morgan's a good offensive line coach. Shane Waldron has 3 years of play calling experience, helped revitalize Geno Smith. Thomas Brown, to get him as a pass game coordinator, I thought was great. Again, we have to see how it comes together. They have not coached this quarterback a single game, a single practice yet, so I'm admitting that is projection, but if it's this staff versus Bill Lazor, I will take this staff all day long. You also have a top 10 defense to lean on. And I know earlier I said this team has been too heavily emphasized on the defensive side of the football, but I think for a rookie quarterback, it is important to not feel like you have to force the issue. And Caleb Williams at USC had to do that. Not only did he feel like he had to do that, he just straight up did. He doesn't have to press. This is actually going to be a rare situation where a quarterback leaving college to come to the NFL will actually be in a better situation, right? He is not going to have to score 50 points per game, so he could just develop, take the easy stuff, go be Superman like we know he can when it's necessary, but you don't have to feel like you have to score a touchdown on every drive coming into this situation. And then just obviously the last piece of the puzzle is, what did I say earlier? They haven't always drafted the right quarterback, and we don't know for sure if Caleb's the right one in this draft. We could look up in 3 years, and maybe it'll end up being Drake May or Jaden Daniels. I'm projecting it to be Caleb. That's who I would take. I do think he's the best prospect. Now, will he be the best pro? Time will tell. It's a crapshoot, but he is supremely talented. He's got the full skill set, the arsenal. I think he's got the right mentality, but as we know, yes, we can blame the organization and the coordinators and the pieces around him, but the quarterback has to be held accountable too. That's what I said with Justin Fields, and why I would have moved on from him. Yes, did he get screwed to a large extent? Absolutely. But was he still inconsistent? Were there still areas that he could have played better? For sure. The QB himself has to be good. Now, does Caleb Williams have to come in here and be a superstar from day one on the field, the top 5 QB in the league? No. But you got to see clear growth as a rookie. Going into year 2, you got to feel like he's the guy. And I think there's a good chance with the structure in place where if he plays pretty well and it continues to improve this rookie year, that is going to lead to success. Does any of this guarantee anything? No. But you can't deny that this is a much better situation that a rookie's walking into. And oh, by the way, this rookie is more talented than Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields' prospects. That's just a fact. So we'll see how it plays out. But I do really feel like this could be the one. The Chiefs never got it right either until they did. Now, am I saying Caleb's going to be Mahomes? No, I'm not saying that. That's a silly comparison. But the point is organizations forever didn't have the guy until they did. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati. They didn't have a quarterback for 30 years. So it can happen. Don't feel like it can't. Be excited about the possibility. Will it work with Caleb Williams? Is he the one? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. I think he is. We don't know for sure. There's no way to know for sure, but I'm going to choose to be optimistic, and I think it can work this time. Hit that subscribe button if you agree. or if you just want daily Bears content. Bear down, more to come here on Chicago Bears Now.